Huh? What? Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Welcome back to the channel, old and new, boomer and zoomer. Come around, grab a cup of dairy-free and responsibly sourced hot cocoa. Warm up by the fire, even though it's surprisingly warm where I am now. And it's supposed to be warm the rest of the week. I got to go on a walk yesterday. The sun was shining. Oh, Lord, that was gorgeous. I know it's early, but how about that be the question of the day? What have you been up to this week? It's super vague. Oh, so relatable. But please, I'd love to know. But while you answer that, why not subscribe while you're here? It's free, it just takes a second, and it helps out the channel way more than you know. Thank you. Because while I absorb myself in current events and try to find something to bring to you, I stumbled across my old bread and butter. You know the guys I'm talking about. And yes, that title is not fake. A man has been given a jail term of 55 days for throwing a tin can onto a road during last year's protests, on the grounds that the action had, quote, an enormous impact, unquote, on the people of Hong Kong, and the prison sentence reflects, quote, the severity of the offense, unquote. Let's see, which one more bad? Man throw can or police brutality? I'll give you a minute to think. Which one did you come up with? I'm not gonna try too hard to shove your opinion one way or the other, but the choice seemed kinda obvious to me. So the article by Priscilla NG that was linked reports that a 30-year-old man was given a 55-day prison sentence on Thursday after being convicted of throwing a metal can onto a road last year as police were clearing away a barricade set up by protesters. Patrick Cheng was released on bail pending an appeal. Eastern Magistracy heard that Cheng had, without a lawful excuse, thrown a metal can onto the junction of Sai Wan Ho Road and Hoining Street on November 11th, a day when anti-government protesters declared a citywide strike. Look, I hate littering as much as the next guy, but this seems a little out there, Chief. The can measured around 0.2 square meters in size, or about the size of 1.5 pieces of A4 paper. Interesting, cool. So, 2 pieces of paper about equals prison time. But only when you're not supporting the state. Don't forget! Laughs in police. God. Cheng's lawyer said during the mitigation plea that the item did little to obstruct the road, but Magistrate Chung Ke-hong disagreed, saying the defendant's act had created, quote, an enormous impact, unquote, on people who just wanted to live their normal lives. And the things that they were protesting obviously aren't affecting people's lives, right? Have you ever thought maybe there's a reason why people are protesting in the first place? Chung found Cheng guilty. Whoa, that's a tongue twister. Chung found Cheng guilty of 1 count of obstructing a public place, adding that a jail sentence was necessary to reflect the severity of the offense. Fascinating. When you review footage from October 1st in Hong Kong, special credit to Ian Chu, you can see the police throwing a trash bin from the footbridge as protesters flee from tear gas and pepper spray. Let's review that video really quick, why don't we? Oh, this is gonna be horrifying. Alright, so the scene opens outside of a restaurant. We can actually see a man taking cover inside of the restaurant because his eyes are burning. And then right there, we can see the police toss the large metal bin over the hand railing. And it actually lands on top of someone. The footage continues and the police discharge several shots from the top of the bridge, and protesters beneath scramble for safety. Shout out to not only the person filming, but the other man with the camera underneath the bridge, going to whatever lengths necessary to expose the story no matter what it is. No matter your views on the subject, that's good journalism. 2 people actually, I believe the other person in a yellow vest has a phone. Anyways, the video cuts off after that. Now this video was from October 5th of 2019, but that's not the only footage we have from that day. User @Joaquim says in reply to this, not surprised. Today, a police also drove car, accelerated, and targeted a teen protester. He was hit and in hospital right now. Let's take a look at that video. Warning, I watched it beforehand. This is very disturbing. So we're almost immediately thrown into the action. The car that's being driven by police takes over this poor individual with a camera, and we can see them flattened underneath the hood of the car. And it looks like he gets pushed a fair distance too, knocked onto the sidewalk, until the person zooms in on their license plate. And then we have this guy, the legend himself, skids to a halt before delivering a blow to the car's headlight. Justice reigns from above, or in this case, from the streets. I did my best to find what I could about the poor individual involved, but didn't find much else. So if anyone has any more updates on this story, please do put it in the comments. I would love to know if that poor individual turned out okay. And then to top it all off, we have clear evidence of the riot police trying to censor this information getting out. This is footage of riot police beating someone's phone because they deemed it a threat, according to user BearChan. It's blurry at the start, but as you can see, they demolish it. They beat it with batons, their boots. And then I think what gets me the most is they have the nerve to hand it back. Like, do they think they're saving face by doing that or something? Is that their definition of courtesy? Another example of the clear power imbalance between citizens and the police. However, it doesn't help that there are some voices that want order of this kind. You know, they want this kind of restraint. Take a look at this screen cap from another Chinese forum site. This is an exchange apparently between two teachers. The original post reads, "The real education is to apply restraint using rules and manners, wisdom and knowledge to get rid of the ignorance, laziness, and freedom in human nature." That's right, apparently manners, wisdom, and knowledge can only come from stripping freedom from human nature. And then the other person replies, quote, "Middle schools are getting reported for forcing students to cut their hair. Why is this when to give a kid freedom without limits is to ruin them?" I mean, that sentence in or out of context is treacherous. Yeah, I mean, we need basic decency rules in our education system, but not to the point of dictating everything. I mean, the spaghetti straps thing is already enough of a meme. Imagine if US schools started to lean more towards this school of thought. Didn't even mean to do that play on words, but you get the picture, right? And then this is another screen cap by a parent, no less. Talking about school lunches, they say, quote, "Catering by school unifies the management. No need to give them rights to choose. Adaptation and obedience are the traits they must have. Shouldn't make them picky." When many people know that Chinese school lunches, in fact even American school lunches, don't often meet children's nutritional needs. But if a parent is to believe that students are to lay down and take that, they don't have any business raising a kid. As a parent, you're supposed to encourage your child to grow. You nurture them, right? When this seems more like just telling them to accept whatever's handed to them. I mean, to a degree, we see that in the States, but nothing this severe. This chain of domination and obedience poisons Chinese people at every level. And we can see it show through in another instance. Here's another screen grab from a forum. Now this is just hideous. So this stems from recent outbreaks again in Xinjiang. People are ridiculing a 17-year-old girl who's working in a factory in a family of 4 for getting to go back home every 10 days. They're complaining about them being compassionate. The post reads, quote, "Come on, she is just a self-reliant ordinary worker, with mother picking her up and living in a company-provided dormitory, yet you use her as a quote-unquote weapon against the system, pretending to be compassionate. Thumbs down emojis. The aspects that you pity about are in fact hard-won by our country. You know how hard it is to fight the terrorism in Xinjiang, to maintain stability, and to alleviate poverty? If people like you were to run the country, such workers would never get a chance to survive." Unquote. Well, I don't think they have much of a chance surviving either, if your opinion is indicative of the other side of things. And the situation that he describes, this poor girl's living condition, is incredibly common in China. And while it's true we should count our blessings every day, you don't need to take it this far. But oh, I'm sorry, it's so hard to maintain stability, right? You know, especially in this era of big data. Yeah, I saw a forum post or two talking about that. One user writes, "Dear Zhang Zhaozhang," I hope I said that right. "Can you tell us how to protect our normal citizens' privacy under this era of big data?" And someone replies quite furiously, "Why do you keep talking about privacy and human rights? You must have been brainwashed for hundreds of times by the Western enemy." Another person, "What are you asking for privacy for?" Well, I wonder, why would someone ask for privacy? I don't know. Maybe because policymakers in China are placing insufficient emphasis on adopting clearly defined policies to keep pace with China's push for technological innovation, but I don't know. Let's take a look at this article from CSIS to dive further. So, regulations on data security are growing more and more vague, outlining the acceptable usage and exploitation of data in a way that does not clearly specify how companies can rightfully use consumer data. These unclear guidelines leave companies guessing where the line is drawn between appropriate and legal use of consumer data and the unlawful exploitation of this information. This causes greater risk that companies will be penalized for the unintentional violation of consumer rights, while others may exploit loopholes to use citizens' data for personal gain. And you can imagine what a nightmare that is for consumers. I mean, earlier in January, 468 million pieces of personal information were mined from financial lending platform databases and piece by piece sold to smaller lenders. But all that? Oh, no. Government sleep on that. They don't hear any of that. The article goes on. In June of 2017, China implemented a new cybersecurity law, which now acts as the baseline for China's present-day guidelines. Initially passed in 2016, the law was created to provide guidelines for maintaining network security, protecting the rights and interests of individuals and organizations, and promoting the secure development of technology. The law requires that data is stored within China, and that organizations and network operators submit to government-conducted security checks. Critics of the law argue that requiring companies to submit information for spot checks further increases the risk of a security breach or loss of information. And I'll pause for a minute, I can totally understand that. Data changing hands a lot of places, the ball is going to get dropped somewhere. The article goes on. The ambiguous nature of the law allows the government more space to request and control information, while also leading to misunderstandings within business as to what constitutes acceptable use of data. And boy, does the government love to flex that. I mean, we all know China's push for biometric data. According to IHS Markit, a London-based market research firm, China had 176 million surveillance cameras in operation in 2016, and the number was set to reach 626 million by current year. I did my best digging for new statistics, but couldn't come up with anything concrete. So again, please, if you know anything about that, put it in the comments. Look, I can see the argument for it preventing crime, don't get me wrong. But on the other hand, where do we draw the line between Crime Stoppers and infringing on civil liberties? Especially when we have reports from Xinjiang of people saying the government uses the information it collects to profile an ethnic minority, identify those who it views as potentially extremist or separatist, and reinforce the ideals and traditions of the Communist Party of China. Yeah, I took a look at the translated PDF of the law, and Lord, it is terrifying, especially when in Chapter 1, Article 12 alone, we have this little excerpt that says, "Individuals and organizations shall abide by the Constitution and laws, observe public order, and respect social ethics. They shall not impair network security and are prohibited to engage in activities that threaten national security, incite subversion of the state power, or overthrow of the socialist system, propagate terrorism and/or extremism," their definitions of terrorism or extremism, by the way, "ethnic hatred and/or discrimination, violent and/or obscene/erotic information, disrupt economic and social orders with fabricating and disseminating false information, or infringe the reputation, privacy, intellectual property, and other legal rights and interests of another." Which I find it funny, with their $8.9 billion cybersecurity industry, they still let casual racism like this happen online. It's not like they can't see it, right? Look at this exchange. The user says, quote, "Mark my word, if there's a war someday, stabilize internally first, and I shall definitely go to Suzhou and kill whoever wears kimono." They're talking about actively Japanese residents of China. Another user responds, "There are 550 Japanese companies around there. Japanese alone will make you so tired that you can't lift your arm." How is this a joke to some people? Oh, but they're ready to come back. That's alright, just however much we can. Probably we will have some like-minded friends joining us. And with the emojis again, that is not proper in this context or at all. None of this is right. And oh, by the way, let's just totally ignore the fact that kimonos are an adaptation of Chinese Song Dynasty clothing, right? Hanfu is the term used for the historical styles of clothing worn in China by the Han Chinese. Traditionally, it consists of a robe or shirt worn as the upper garment, with a pleated skirt commonly worn as the lower garment. It continued to develop, absorbing a number of elements from foreign cultures. ancient Han Chinese clothing styles are also noted as being influential in the development of other traditional East Asian clothing, such as the adoption of Chinese court clothing by Heian period courtiers in Japan, almost directly leading towards the development of the kimono, as well as other Korean and Vietnamese clothing. But sure, ignore your own culture, by the way, just to be ignorant and hateful. I mean, that's the trend in 2020, right? And I guess to close this out, and once again highlight the lengths that some people are dedicated to the state, this is a screen cap of a review for a website's promotion of the Apple iPhone 12, alright? Par for the course. The person says 1 star, no other reason, because the Huawei blood flows in my bones. 36 likes, but you can see it in other places online. I mean, it repeats like this strange mantra. You may choose not to buy Huawei, but you must bow when passing by a Huawei store. I mean, to these people, Huawei equals the CCP, and somehow that represents China as a whole, when Huawei is just continually exploiting people's patriotic sentiment and driving them to grow hostile nationalism and hatred towards their competitors. It's an ideological war, and it's sickening. As we come to the end of this video, I want to encourage you to do your own research on all of these topics. I can shout and scream my opinions and memes all that I want, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to look into the information, to raise awareness of it, so that maybe we can get some of our opinions past the Great Firewall, or something like that, anything. Because while I know we can't solve every injustice in the world, there are some things that we can't just let slide by without at least speaking out about, no matter which way you believe in. So I want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, why not leave a like and share this video around, help spread the word. Get discussions going. Hey, maybe even join my Discord server and talk about it. I'd love to hear what you think. Whenever you're watching this, I hope you have a good rest of your day and an even better tomorrow. Stay safe out there, everyone, and until next time, bye!
I should probably start proofreading my will.